just an FYI, we are live on YouTube right now. Don't say anything
Right,
bad.
I'll pick my nose now.
I will ask that watching on YouTube, we have two panels that like look out and don't have much, anything going on. Is there a way at some point to switch it so we can put the actual material? You know, instead of,
There's 4 quadrants.
right.
Did you log in and watch your daughter speak in our ward? Do the link to it if you scroll in.
That has then any,
Hard to see all 4 of those.
that's what I'm saying, is I think the one looking at the audience, unless it's really full, a full night, you cover most of it
Yeah.
with the applicant. Just a
My daughter
thought,
Jenna
as I've
was
been
speaking
watching
in a
this,
different
and
board in our state with City Council.
it's just hard to see anybody that's on Zoom.
So
because
I
they're-
can't see that one, but my wife
Yeah,
was able
so
to watch that
just a
one.
thought, if maybe in one of the quadrants.
I don't know, to have 3, I don't know if it will make it the 3rd one.
Yeah.
No, not make 3, just take one of those,
Good to
just
see
the
ya.
full audience cam, maybe in the
Sure.
bullet and put just the, the information that you're presenting.
Switch back and forth.
We've
Yeah.
had the primary
And
giving
it's-
Is that probably for sale or?
someone in the primary giving
Or
a talk
sale.
to the
Just to do
children.
this?
Be able to switch between screens.
No.
And so we opted out.
Saying, hey, how are you? We sing our opening hymn is always a favorite song.
And just this to try to.
Come on down.
That's right.
Good, Jake, how you
I
doing?
know.
Surviving.
So I've been chatting with Jason Barris.
Awesome. How do you know him?
Yeah, we wouldn't
Well, I
have.
just bought a car from him, his
So
dealership down
let me
in
talk to
Florida. It's
IT
just like,
guys.
Just a thought, even if we permanently switch it, I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah,
So I was telling him about the precedent site taken.
to be honest.
He said he might be interested, and he said you helped him with one down there in Orem.
Yeah. We love Jason. He's a great kid.
So, anyway, just would love to get someone in there, get those sales.
Hello?
Yeah, so I just told him
Looks like we have some scouts here today, right?
Yay,
up for sale.
we like that.
Be amenable to leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
The ground and 2 dealerships, so, yeah, he's conquered the world.
One of you?
So I think he did our,
It's really simple.
Yeah, I just chatted with him today, and he said, maybe
Enthusiasm, wait till they're,
he said right now.
Their leader comes back.
the handyman plumber guy,
But this would
yeah.
be good, 'cause he could sell them.
Welcome back, Adam.
He did, what is his last name?
Something going there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I like the new chairs.
aren't they nice?
Nice.
Have you been in them?
I was there
Have I
for
been in them?
Yes, I mean, I know you've been out of town.
Yeah, this is my first time in
Ah.
chairs. How exciting.
Nice, nice,
Some
nice.
reason my computer's not remembering the nod nil.
Did we have them 2 meetings ago?
I don't know if
Yeah.
I haven't seen Wayne in a while.
I politely asked if one of your scouts would be willing to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Name
Big
and
eyes. It's really simple.
Yeah, the nod nil.
Easy.
Okay.
Izzy.
Lyndon
Is there a last name?
Not this anymore.
Pierce.
Okay. That's my mother's maiden name, Pierce.
Okay, I know you
Yeah,
don't say it out loud.
E-R-C-E. I know how to spell that one well.
So Izzy, I will invite you at the appropriate time, and basically you can just come stand up in front and then invite the audience to stand.
So the apartments I built.
Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag's right up here, okay? And then when we're completed, you can tell them to sit down. You'll be in control. You know.
It'll stay,
Staff report.
it'll be here for that.
On the vote, just at the bottom on the one that was there, I'll have to see what page it was on. You put that it was unanimous, but there was one nay.
Yeah, I've changed that. Yep, I should have said the ones that were changed to mine, but yeah, I have changed
I
that.
got one out of the car, but Kathy has some in the fridge, so I'll bring it.
Thank you, Van.
Kathy's giving the green light.
Created this new zone,
Oh,
been doing
fabulous,
it for like
okay.
a year.
Except that ends should not be counted.
Not case sensitive, okay.
Mike and Mike, Kathy, can you hear us all okay?
Some of us didn't want to approve the way it was written,
So we'll
and some did, but they.
Hey, Wild Sunshines. How's your new UTA college?
Good, it's busy.
There we go.
They're all
We're
good
good.
for that.
Thank you so much.
And I think Mike is coming as well.
Thank you, thank you. Perfect.
I think Kathy said we're good to go. Is that right?
Hang on just a second.
Okay. So Izzy, you can do it, all right? It's all good.
Do you remember back in the day when we used to do pledge first and then
Yeah.
invocation? It's just, I just say it's easier because then you, whoever's saying the invocation stays standing, but
Yeah.
I guess you get to stand and stay standing.
That's right.
Jeff, how many acres are out there? Must have, because I don't have it. I guess, I bet Adam will hook it up for you. There should be a,
Let me just double check. Hey, Van and Mike Venturi, Mike Florence, Kathy, can you all just give us a quick sound check? Are you okay?
am I on the guest one?
Little echoey, but not too bad.
'Cause I downloaded mine.
Mike Florence, you okay? Mike Venturi, can you hear us all right?
Everything's fine, thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Okay.
Okay, we're going live. We'd like to welcome you out to our city council meeting tonight. We'll start off with an invocation by council member Carolyn Lundberg, after which, and when she's through, we'll ask Izzy, is it Pearson or Pierce? Pierce, okay. One of our wonderful scouts here in the community to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Carolyn?
Our dear Father in heaven, as we gather this evening to do the business of Lindon City, we're first and foremost want to express our gratitude to Thee to have such a blessed community of many good people, many good hands that lift and help one another, and that we have been blessed in these difficult times when so many others around our nation and around the world have various challenges. And we pray that we will continue to try to be wise stewards of those things that we have and be ready to share and assist and make good decisions to ensure the safety and peace and security of those here in our community and those that we touch. We are very thankful for all those that are still able to continue the needs of the city that each and every day, and we ask Thee to bless those that are at this time sick and trying to overcome that, and those prayers that are going to Thee, we wish to add to as well. And we are asked that this evening we'll be able to have a good, healthy, respectful discourse, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, Izzy.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job, thank you. You're part of the public record now. Your name will be in our minutes. That's great. Okay, let's go ahead and do roll call, and Randy, will you start us off, please?
Randy Powell, present.
Jake Hoyt, present.
Jeff Acerson, present.
Carolyn Lundberg, present.
Mike Venturi, present.
Van Broderick present.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes of the November 2nd, 2020 meeting. Any corrections or additions?
I have a small one. It's page 3 of the minutes, I think. Let's see, I should have had it pulled up for us, but I didn't. It was just a little kind of flip on what I was meaning to say is what the minutes said. So let's see if I can pull that real quick. Oh, here it is. It is page 7 of the packet, page 4, I think, of the minutes, on line 13. It says something to the effect that I was concerned with, this is regarding the short-term rentals. She was concerned that we are not providing a full scope of protection for the residents and yet also the consumers. And Kathy, if we could just change that so it's more in the lines of that I was concerned about it being a full scope of protection for the consumer. I don't know if you.
Thank you, Randy.
I look back and you're not in your chair.
But
We-
she's still there.
Yep. Thank you, Kathy.
And in that same
Randy?
section, Kathy, I just had a small thing as well, line 31, where I was discussing, the question is, if there is a problem, let's see, let me just, if the industry is regulating itself sufficiently. Thank you.
Any other corrections? Motion to be in order with those corrections. Go ahead. Someone?
I'll make that motion.
Is that Mike Vanchery?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion by Mike. Is there a second?
Second it.
Carolyn, thank you. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you. Council reports. Let's start with those of you that are online. Let's start with Mike, and then we'll go to Van.
Thank you. We had our North Point Solid Waste Special Services District Board meeting this morning. Everything seems to be going well. We amended our 2020 budget to reflect the actual numbers, and we approved our 2021 budget. Things are going well. We have a nice surplus, and putting that into capital improvements, or capital equipment and so forth, just to have a little rainy day fund. As far as planning and zoning, Mike and Anders are doing a fantastic job. I try to keep in touch with Mike as often as I think I need to, and he's good to reach out also. So I don't know that there's really a whole lot. I think Carolyn and I have been invited to a developer meeting coming up here shortly on the 700 North corridor. And thanks to Mike for arranging that meeting with some of our developers, local developers and so forth. So I know Carolyn's already responded affirmatively. I'll do everything in my power to be there. I have 4 more treatments left, so I should be okay. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Van?
Yes, you know, over the years, we get people that approach us with their concerns. It's been fun this last week as people have reached out saying how much they enjoy living in Lindon.
It's Wednesday.
And even though we've done it for a long time, the dumpsters that we provide in the fall and the spring and the leaf pickup, people just think that's way cool and they're so appreciative of that. So I just wanted to pass that along and hope that's something that we continue to do. And then, of course, always shout out to the mayor for his help in the leaf pickup as well. But that's it.
I actually had one of the residents respond, said, I didn't fill them up so full this year because I knew you were going to pick it up. So they're keeping me in mind. My gray hair, I guess.
Yes, yeah, very good. So we did have a meeting with Boyer developers today and getting feedback on our 700 North area document. IBI is going to be presenting some of that this next week to Planning Commission. Mike and I have kind of gone through that with a fine-tooth comb, making some little tweaks in there, and going to hopefully get some more feedback from some more developers and some more meetings, get some more discussions percolating for that. Mike's doing a great job, so would like to commend him for that. And then also we're kicking off the exploratory committee. Heath has gotten organized. A really great group to discuss potential expansion or improvements to our arena. Various individuals who are experts either in operating that type of a business or animal husbandry. So that'll be, looking forward to reporting back on that. And then also, did any of you receive the email late this afternoon from Mike Smith, Sheriff Smith?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
Interesting comments. I think it's something we may want to look at.
Yes, I was wondering if, I'd like to propose that we perhaps put that as a discussion item.
What is it?
Yes.
So
Can you
if
see
you
that?
didn't see it, Mike Smith, our county sheriff, said that he has been targeted on social media for picketing in front of his home, and he's concerned about harassment of his family. And he attached some articles. You know, there's been some media coverage in Orem, Governor Herbert's home. Some of the municipalities are starting to enact some ordinances just to clarify, you know, First Amendment rights versus creating a disturbance in neighborhoods. So he was suggesting that we look at that, and if I have another council member here, Van, I'd love to get that as a discussion item
I would
Yeah,
love that.
down the road.
I just forwarded that to you, Adam, that email.
Okay.
He put some ordinance, verbiage in there and
Orem just on Friday passed an ordinance.
Yeah,
An
Mayor
emergency
Brunst
ordinance.
was on the radio today commenting on it, so that'd be great.
Council, also of note there with Mike as the county sheriff, he's also a Lindon resident.
Yes.
Correct.
Mike's in my ward. Just lives right up the road from me.
Okay. Anything else,
And
Carolyn?
that's everything I have now of consequence. I mean, there's been other little emails and resident things, but no need to bring them up
Okay,
here.
thank
Adam's on
you.
top of some things.
Okay, Jake.
yeah, just a lot of what everyone's already said. Had several residents reach out to me, thanking me for the pickup on the Leafs. Also part of the committee on that the horse arena. Had an opportunity to play on our pickleball courts over in Creekside and noticed that the ones over at Pheasant Brook are getting close to being done as well. Trying to get those in before winter, which we're moving quick. So. I don't think I have anything else, just Parks and Recs moving into their slower time, which is nice, and they did have to cancel all youth sports for the time being. We had some indoor soccer leagues going that we canceled, so just to be aware of that with the governor's announcement a week and a half ago. So nothing else to report.
Win at pickleball?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so. You can ask Van. He was there as well. Van always beats up on me, so.
I wish.
Okay, Randy.
A lot of fun.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to say that I'm trying my best to be in accordance with the governor's. I'm maintaining my distance. I just recently, Wednesday, came out of quarantine from COVID, we spent about 6 weeks at our house between my husband and I. So we've gone through it, and I'm doing my very best to maintain. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but if I encroach on you, please let me know. And I will do my best to correct that. And my oxygen level is beyond low right now, so I'm like at a 94. So we don't need me passing out. First off, I have a few things here to report. On last week, Mayor and I and Adam attended an engineering meeting for our public works, and it had to do with our Center Street and some fun things we'd like to do in the future. And that was very eye-opening, and I appreciate all the hard work of our staff on that one. I have a concern about, especially out here in front of our fire department, as we know, we have so many used car lots in Lindon along State Street mainly, but there is oftentimes offloading in the center lane. And I've noticed twice now there's been cars offloading right in front of the fire station, which really concerns me if we have an emergency exit of our fire department having to get out, that it would cause a lot of problems. So I don't know what our ordinance is for that, if it's a UDOT issue. Could you help me with that, Adam or Brian, or?
I'll have to check with our police department and see, but that's been something that they've talked to those businesses before, and so it may just be new drivers or new delivery places. So I'll follow up with that with our
Okay.
our
And
department.
I think it's kind of one of those things to make sure that the dealerships in which they're offloading to, understand that that their drivers are in violation if that's the case, because there is such a huge safety issue. There was another one today down further that was, I just have a hard time with them offloading there, because the driver that had unloaded the vehicle was, I think it was at Auto Source, just pulled off really quickly right in front of me and about caused an accident. So I appreciate all the sales tax revenue that they offer with the car lots, but we've got to make sure that the public is safe at the same time, as well as the drivers of those vehicles.
Randy,
yeah.
also the owner of Fence Specialist, he owns that bank of buildings. I know he made a public comment some time ago that his neighbor, the offloading was presenting an issue for his customers and people being able to enter and exit safely from there, and he expressed concern about that as well.
And which business was this?
Just right there where you're talking about the Fence Specialist, which is next to you.
Oh, yes, the Fence Specialist. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. And then I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again, is that about a month ago, a resident reached out. He was involved in an automobile accident of serious nature there on the south entrance, exit and entrance to Walmart over by Dollar Tree. And I've given it a little closer look, and I encourage all of us to look at that to see what can be done. I know it's a UDOT, but it could cause some serious accident, serious injury to people. And it's as you're turning out, if you're going northbound, I said south, on the north side of that, south side of the Wendy's. But if you're trying to go north, heading north out of the parking lot by Dollar Tree, and making a left-hand turn, there is no way to be able to turn safely because of the medium that's there. It's not a full, lack of a better term, suicide lane. That center lane has a median there, where if you're making if the road continues on, I don't know if we can pull it up, but anyway, I'm sure that we can look into that heavier. So.
UDOT has actually approached us in the past with potential desire to continue that median so that people cannot make a left-hand turn out of there. So that may be the end solution of that, so.
Just a solution, I think, is just whatever's in the best interest of the public, I think is important there. I do say that it would be hard to try to access 700 North without a left turn there, because otherwise you have to go all the way down to the Arby's to get out to State Street, then to make if you're following me, in order to get access to 700 North. Yeah. So that's just my thought. If they were to take down that barrier of that median, then people could more safely do that. So just a thought. Let's see. I'll leave my big one for the last, I guess. Looks like Christmas shopping starts tomorrow, early Christmas shopping, because Holy Cow is opening. They're setting up right now. So I encourage everybody to go over. That's such a great business or venture, boutique institution, right, in our city. So I encourage everybody, I know everybody here does as well, to go check out Holy Cow. Starts tomorrow, goes through Saturday. And then off of kind of what Carolyn brought up with Sheriff Mike Smith, I was wondering if anybody else had received any phone calls or interaction with the public concerning the governor's new mandate. I've had several different avenues, I guess, be brought to me of concern. One is that what are we doing as a city for enforcement of that? How are we using our city resources? So these are questions, whether we discuss them at a future date. I know what I have said to one individual, and that is that they brought up Mike Smith and how when this was being discussed on the county level, he said that he would not be issuing tickets for that. He would be using education as that. And he felt like, well, he doesn't feel like, he knows that he has the authority to do that because he's the ultimate elected official over law enforcement for the county. That being said, our mayor is the one that directs our police department and whether or not to do that. Am I correct in that? And letting citizens know that it's not the police chief that would make that decision whether to enforce that. It'd be by direction of our mayor? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. Elaine, you know?
Well, are we really going to try to enforce it?
You know,
The-
the question is
Gives the mandate to enforce the governor's order for the state
To enforce the
as far as the
governors.
city.
You want to be the one to go around Thanksgiving and give people tickets?
Yeah, the simple answer is no. We're not going to be issuing citations on that.
Okay.
Education.
Right, okay, and that was just some of the comments. I had one that's thought that, I said, well, this is, the mayor would encourage, in my opinion, knowing you, that you would encourage education. And right now, we're in the middle of changing our chief of police and looking for a new one, and I don't see, Lindon's never been heavy-handed that way, is the way I've approached this. And then the other thing was that they said, well, if we were to enforce it, and this one just kept going on, and you love parking lot conversations sometimes, and no matter how much you wear a mask, sometimes you never wear a mask like the mayor's. You get caught easier. But this one individual, he let me know that he says, well, the city council is over the budget, and if we then enforce it, then what is Brian basically going to be doing about it? So all the city resources, and so it was a lot of breadcrumbs that was having to be followed. But, and I only bring this up really because of things that happened on Saturday at the governor's residence, and that there are citizens that are concerned, and I want to be able to let them know that we are concerned as well, and trying our best to do the best that we can in the circumstances, so.
So did you hear what the numbers were today? 1,900, I think.
Yeah, a little lower.
So that's an encouraging, whether or not it's a result of wearing masks or social distancing or whatever, that's a good number, better number anyway.
So I can
Education.
that's what I was gonna say, I can confidently just say, we are strongly encouraging just education if we have to have contact with the public.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. And,
Let me just add one thing, though.
please,
That I did speak with Chief Adams about this, given the change, but we're not gonna go out and be writing a whole bunch of tickets. But the officers do respect private property rights. And if a private property owner,
Sure.
a store owner, asks somebody to either wear a mask or leave, and they refuse, and they ask to be late, and then they're asked to leave and they don't, officers will enforce those private property rights.
and I agree with that. I mean, on the simple fact that that's the property rights
Exactly.
of that particular individual. And so to me, it's a multifaceted infraction. They've been basically told they're trespassing.
Right, exactly.
Mask fits everyone. Everyone interprets it a little differently, and
Correct.
the real change is when you get on private property,
Right.
you can't impose your principles on someone
Correct.
whose property that it is.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, and like I said, I try to be cognizant.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, harm anybody but that, but I'm also know that for me, right now, a mask would be harming me because my oxygen level, which I have a pulse oximeter and watch it, it'd be very dangerous for me right now, but I don't want it to be dangerous. And I'm COVID negative, or I'm okay right now, so, anyway. It's a lot of things for us to deal with right now, right? Besides who's coming to Thanksgiving or who can come to Thanksgiving, so.
And that's the big debate.
Yeah, right.
And everyone, I mean, for instance, in my family, our daughter just arrived from Italy last night.
Oh.
I have yet to socialize with her because she personally wants to quarantine with our granddaughter and her husband at our home. So we've actually moved out.
Oh.
To my other daughter's home. Anyway, it's just, it becomes, you want to make
Ramifications.
sure that you're sensitive to everyone's personal choices.
I like that.
And it isn't that one's better than the other. It's just everyone has a different roadmap. And I think as a city, we need to be respectful of individuals. And I think education and sharing that education is the right thing to do, and let people make the choices that they feel most comfortable with, within the
And help support
constraints of the
those.
law.
Right.
So.
Thank you, everybody. That's
Okay.
all.
Anyone else? I mean, council, I think we've covered. Adam?
So just a few things, where we're at with the police chief hiring status.
How's that going?
Right now, we have our hiring committee reviewing kind of our semifinalist applicants. And then by Wednesday, I've asked them to have those ranked, and then we'll look at where everybody's evaluations came in on those. And then hopefully within the next week and a half, we'll be starting our first round of interviews out of those top candidates. So it's still gonna be a few weeks before we actually have somebody, because by the time we go through the background checks and hiring process, and then they give notice if they're currently employed, it's gonna be a few weeks. So another month probably before we actually have somebody in-house.
We have an interim, someone that's assigned to kind of manage our police.
We do, and
Yeah,
so
that's-
Lieutenant Edwards is currently been tasked with that, and so he is the next in command when the chief is absent, so.
Are there any internal applicants?
We have one that's, not individuals in that top candidate group, so.
I would just point out, as I'm reviewing those, there are some outstanding applicants.
Yeah, we were fortunate, we had a really good group of applicants, very competitive, so. Just an FYI on the fall cleanup then with the dumpsters and the leaf pickup, that continues through November 22nd. The mayor's Thanksgiving dinner has been canceled this year due to the coronavirus. And then
That's not my personal Thanksgiving dinner. That's the
the
community
city
one.
Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, that's gonna be canceled probably as well, so.
The tree lighting, December 7th, will be a broadcast only, and Heath will be working with those involved. That may be pre-recorded, so we'll just put that out on Facebook. Just an FYI, we've got one of our wells that's scheduled for some work, and it will last several months. And so if you see some work at well number 4, then we'll just know that was scheduled. It's not a crisis. So, and then Randy mentioned we're evaluating some future improvements on Center Street with the new temple location yet to be announced. It's somewhere down Center Street, we believe, and so we're looking at options for widening and just some beautification projects along that. So we'll bring
Adam, can you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, so we're just looking at options for widening and some beautification projects along Center Street should the temple end up down at the end of Center Street somewhere. I think that is it. Mayor, anything else for me?
There was one more question I had. I apologize. I forgot. 600 North had a seal coat put on it several weeks ago, maybe even up to a month or more ago. And that section of road has speed bumps, and it has not been painted again. And so the speed bumps are kind of blended into the
hidden.
pavement. And I'm just
Okay.
wondering when
I'll-
they're coming back to paint those lines.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'll follow up with Juan.
All right.
Okay.
You know, if you have an opportunity to, and you probably do, and you may be fully aware of this, but as I'm driving around looking for bags of leaves, I'm noticing the road improvements that you have so graciously approved, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, some of the areas, and so I just applaud your efforts in trying to extend those kind of improvements to our city. It's noticeable, so.
I think those road improvements have been awesome. I've noticed that on a lot of the resurfaced, there's the bike sign, that this is a bike lane, and they're almost excessive. On 100 South, they're like every 50 feet. Has anyone else noticed that?
Yeah.
It's just so many. Is that part of our bike master plan?
To have them that close?
The lane itself, yes. The distance on spacing, I will have to look into that and see why it was so
I mean, on
often.
100 South, it is every 50 feet, and it is excessive.
Okay.
I think that's Kathy's road. Kathy, have you noticed those?
Yeah, I have noticed that, Jake.
There's just so many. I mean, we get it.
Yeah.
It's a bike lane. We don't need to be told every 50 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On that and see why that happened.
Or whatever.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to number 6, which is open session. Anyone here to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda this evening?
Good time for any questions.
This is the time if you want to ask a question. Yes, please state your name and address and then go ahead and ask your question.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
You're great neighbors.
From Orem, you talked about pickleball, and I'm curious to know if you think that the rules are being followed in regards to letting everybody play on the court. I've had trouble at, we call it hidden park, but I think it's called hollow.
Follow, yeah.
With people yielding the court. Like if you try to follow the rules that you guys have put up there, no one follows the rules. And when you try to put your paddles in, people have gotten smart and they'll bring extra paddles so that they stay on the court.
Shoot.
And I've gotten cussed out before. I'm just wondering if I'm the only one.
That's the first I've heard of it. So I'm the Parks and Rec rep, and I was gonna hope you'd seen those, and that's the first I've heard that people are bringing extra paddles. That's unfortunate. That's the first I've heard of it, but I'll bring it up with our Parks and Rec department and let them know that they're having some issues. Obviously, those rules are posted, and we do have a mechanism in place, hoping that people will follow those. Beyond.
What do you do? Like if people won't yield?
We just throw them in jail. I mean, that's what we typically
I
do.
want to. It's just pickleball, but.
Oh, I know. People love their pickleball. No, we'd obviously like the rules to be adhered to. Adam, beyond, is that a phone call to Parks and Rec?
There's probably, I'm assuming there's a phone number to our Parks Department on those signs. And so that would probably be the first thing. If you communicating to the individuals hasn't been effective, you can call the Parks Department and see if one of our staff or the director can come out and talk with them. If it's after 5, we also have 2 other parks, one that has pickleball courts currently installed, another one that they're almost finished. And so there's some other locations.
I mean, like, say we're playing at night and you guys are gone.
Give me a call.
I would try.
I'm serious, give me a call.
Try one of our other parks that has courts.
I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, so
But can I ask, is this a repeat offender? Is this, or is it just a kind of an established pattern?
I've seen it in Orem too.
Okay.
I've seen it all over, and I'm just curious to know, like, how you go about, everyone wants to play pickleball, and nobody shares. So I'm curious to know what you do about that, because it is a really fun activity, but it's not fun when people yell at you because you're trying to play by the rules that are posted.
So I guess something along the lines of making sure that the owner of the paddle is within close proximity, within a, that
hope-
it's not just an extra paddle
Yeah,
to extend their time.
I play quite a bit. We have a fellow council member who plays quite a bit, and I'm hoping that's an isolated incident. If it does become frequent, call the phone number. If it's after hours, call the mayor. Like
I'm
they
serious,
said.
give me a call.
He'll come down and fix it.
Yeah.
My
He's a
son,
good-
my
he's a
son
good
and
mediator.
daughter-in-law have played down there, and they have said, Dad, there are some that are not following the rules.
Yeah, they're me.
So it is occurring, and I think what you're gonna find is that there are always individuals, whether they mean to or not, they do it to their advantage, and really what we need to do is, we have a resource, we need to share it in a way that everyone has the opportunity to play, and we've set kind of a process, and we just need to teach people to adhere to that process. We don't want to come down and be strong about it, but, best government is self-government, and we need to make sure that we make sure they're clear on what the policy is and then follow it. So, and I'm serious. You can have my number and call me. I'm not that far away, so I can come down, at least take the burden of some individual that doesn't want to conflict or confront someone, and the confrontation is more just saying, this is our policy, we'd love to have you play here, but we need to follow the policy. Okay?
we do have a non-emergency dispatch number for our police department as well. And if they're on calls, they won't be able to respond right away, but within a certain amount of time, when they are free, they could come and assist with that as well. And so.
And if it is after hours, it's this, we use the same dispatch as Orem. So that one is the after hours, but we have our own dispatch during office hours, is that correct or
It
no?
is the same
It's the same.
non-emergency dispatch number as
Okay.
Orem, yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay, any other public open comment that's not on the agenda? Yes,
Get the billing, reading of the meters figured out. Do you hear anything about that?
Oh,
you want,
on the water?
On the water, yeah, because our water got shut off because they weren't reading it for 2 years, and then charged us like $800 to make them shut it off. Just wondering if that got all figured out.
And Kathy will need your name
We-
and address for the minutes.
do you
Yeah,
want to
could
give
you
us?
tell us your name?
Hey, Thomas, 558 North, 200 East.
Thomas, I think we spoke on the phone. Maybe, okay. So we have resolved that. We had 7 meters. And I need to follow up with you on the response from our city attorney and where you had spoken with an attorney and gotten back with us. So I'll give you a call.
Yeah, that wasn't me, but.
Okay, maybe I
just wanted to make
misunderstood
sure
that.
It wasn't gonna be, like, if it was a glitch system there, if it was something that was fixed.
We believe that's fixed. So it's best we can tell, it was a computer error, and we don't know why that happened out of 3,000 plus accounts. But hopefully our utility clerk had followed up with you on a payment plan option. Is that, okay?
So if you find that it hasn't been resolved, don't wait, come back and let's get it resolved, making sure that your understanding is the same as our understanding.
I just wanna make sure the problem.
That's what I'm saying, to make,
Yeah.
if you see that it's,
Yeah, but it's not gonna happen again if it's the system breakdown, if there's a lot of that happening, that getting corrected.
yeah, I agree.
Software problem, fix the software. Hardware problem, fix the hardware, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I've had that same situation twice with, once with Utah Power and once with Rocky Mountain Power, where the meter system it failed. And I've been through that process twice with them over the 25 years I've lived in Lindon. So when you're dealing with software, the potential always exists, but hopefully we can remedy that so you don't have to deal with it again, that it's solved, okay?
Were these random throughout the city, or is it, okay, just
Yeah, they were
curious.
random, so. But thank you for bringing that to our attention, and let us know if it isn't resolved to your satisfaction, okay? All right.
We're here for you.
The only problems we can help solve are the ones that we're aware of, and sometimes we're not aware of all the ones that are there, so thank you. Anyone else for open session, public comment? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to a public hearing. There we go. We need to open a public hearing on the zone change for Lindon Nursery property.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carolyn. All in favor of opening a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike and Van, are you still there with us?
They might be on mute.
Okay. Give
Yes,
thumbs
I
up.
said yes, but my mute button was on, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, I need to abstain due to, like the last few times, potential conflicts of interest.
Okay. So is Mike gonna lead this, or?
Mike, I'm gonna sorry, I just had to let you take control here, so. Do you want to share your screen, or you want me to just go ahead and scroll down?
If you just want to go to the site plan,
Okay,
yeah.
that one there, okay.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So this evening, South Haven Development is proposing a zone change to apply the updated planned residential development overlay zone to the rear portion of the Lindon Nursery property. They're proposing a 58-unit townhome development. The density is at 9.16 units to the acre. The total project, or the total size of all the commercial property there is 11.7 acres. The housing development size is 6.33 acres. The Planning Commission voted in favor of the zone change for a recommendation to the council. They voted on 6-1 in favor. I wanted to go through a few site-specific things real quick. So let's talk about density first. The density is based off of the housing behind the 300-foot line. You can see there's a line about it shows you 300 feet back. So that area, it does have some housing encroaching into the 300-foot setback. This was one of the conditions that the Planning Commission had us looked at as well, that that area encroaching needed to be less than the area behind the Lindon Nursery building. You can see both of those are hatched over there. And so the density is based off of what is behind that 300-foot line. They're proposing 2 accesses out to State Street. They have had a pre-application meeting with UDOT. They're continuing to refine where their access will be with UDOT. Let me just go through a couple other things really quick.
Mike, while you're finding that, can I ask 2 questions on the stuff that you've just addressed?
You bet.
So on the density, based on the area behind the 300-foot line, does it count the area behind the existing nursery?
It does. It's not counting the area in front of the 300-foot line. It's counting behind.
Okay, so it does count that. And then the other, maybe you were going to get to it, as it encroaches on the north end into that 300, what is the distance to that edge of the road, or the closest? I mean, it's the 300 is the current code, but what is it actually there? I don't see the dimension there for me to know.
Yeah, so from State Street to that first road, that knuckle right there, it's 154 feet.
Thank you.
Bet. Any other questions before I move on? There's quite a few things that will continue to be refined as they go through the site plan approval process as well. So on these, this would be the one time you're reviewing it here with the zone change. Another time that you would review it is for major subdivision approval. You would not be reviewing this application for site plan approval or conditional use permit approval. That'll be with the Planning Commission. Couple things just to draw your attention to. The ordinance does require 30-foot rear yard setbacks. The interior lots there towards the north, those are less than 30 feet, or they're at 30 feet, right around there. A little bit further south, Adam. Sorry, I wish I...
There?
Yeah, right there. I believe I measured that at 29 to 30 feet. So the council would need to understand that that is a little bit less than the 30-foot rear yard setbacks that are required. Let me see if there's anything else. If we can go to let's see, it would be one next page, Adam, is the renderings. So this would be one, a type or building type would be this townhome. I think they've done a great job with applying good window treatments, good garage door treatments as well. And then with the roof lines look good, and I'm guessing this is a hardy board that they're proposing. I'm sure that one thing we've worked with the developer on is that this plan will continue to be refined according to our ordinance as it continues to work through the site plan and subdivision process if it's approved by the city council. So with that, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I'll ask another one, Mike. Back on the site plan, when you have the area on the best guess further south as it goes, the road going down, can that ever extend into that other property that's there? Or is that a firm termination? How does that impact our road plan and future access into that piece of property?
Yeah, it's not on a road plan within Lindon City. I don't think I know the owner to the south there has come in and talked to us recently about adding some additional bays onto the auto repair portion of the dealership back there. So I'm not sure that they would be expanding, but you know that. Yeah, so I guess we could always look at a design.
I guess
Sorry.
deeper, I'm looking to see, can this property ever be accessed by another road coming in that would dump traffic into someplace else?
I haven't evaluated that so all the way, so I couldn't tell you right offhand. I think the road, if it was to be accessed from something else, so let's say the property to the south of there wanted to develop, it could only be single family homes. I think they would have to widen this road then to have a wider asphalt. But I'm not, yeah, I don't.
Mike, this is not going to be a public roadway. From what I understood, it would be still a private driveway that would be maintained by by the HOA or?
No,
Will it
would
be a public road?
streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to Van's point, do we want to look at the width here if there is potential access needed?
So Van, is your question that you're concerned and you want the city to be able to prevent a connection, or you just wanted to know if there is anything planned?
Well, so my question is obviously as this has been being discussed for some time, traffic has been a key issue. And right now this plan, if approved by UDOT, makes the access purely off of State Street. The question is can it ever be some future development? Would it be possible for them to tie something in that would increase the traffic into the areas where I'm going to just come out and say where we don't want it to be?
I guess that's always a proposal that someone could make, but the city would have to approve that. And so it's, in my mind, theoretically, someone could propose a connection, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be approved. If it's not something on our master plan and there's concerns about that.
Would UDOT weigh in on it at all? Because it would increase traffic potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty far unknown, Van. I mean, somebody could propose a new street anywhere.
Yeah, I was just seeing if it was on our master plan or something now.
No connection to the south from this property on our current master plan. It's zoned residential.
To the south or west?
To the southwest, it's zoned residential, and then, Mike, do you want me to pull up a zoning map? Is that?
Yeah, there's one on that
Actually,
page.
there we go. So
And
there
so
is
that-
some of that
there.
commercial zoning there, but then on the southwest, it's zoned residential.
And, you know, one of the complaints, or one of the comments, I guess, not so much complaint, but one of the comments we had in the planning commission meeting was just about Gilman. We've heard a lot recently about Gilman Avenue with the reception center and things. There was some concern about the width of Gilman, and would this project impact Gilman Avenue? That was why one of the commissioners voted against the zone change. But yeah, I think, I wish we could see into the future on what impacts it might have on roads.
Nothing master planned, Van, and nothing proposed that I believe that we've ever seen. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? Mike, do you have any?
I don't know.
Mike Vanchery, is he still on?
I don't see him.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
on. I
you're
just
there.
had my mute on. No, I was in the planning commission meeting, and I think they discussed it thoroughly and brought up all the considerations, and there was nothing that gave them excessive heartburn, other than some of them wanted to see the requirements met for the development before they granted the zone change, but everyone finally agreed that get the zone change, and then the details can be hammered out with the planning department and so forth. So.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, I have a question. On Exhibit 3, regarding the renderings, on the garage doors, if I recall I think it was, my notes say 14G, we talked about that if the garage doors were flush to the front there, that they'd have some sort of a hangover or some kind. I can't remember. Let's see. What did it say? Let's see. The garage shall have recessed with the wall plane. It just seemed like there would be some sort of a projection off of the front. Is that something that is being done? Or some sort of a shed roof or a...
Yeah, I think we'll have to get into more detail on those.
Okay.
I think there's some trim around it, but I don't know if they're flush or not. That's something we'll definitely have more detail on before it goes to planning commission.
Okay. It's not that I'm picky about garage doors, but I'm picky about garage doors.
Full history there, right?
Yeah, just like 30 years of it, so.
Okay, Carolyn?
So Mike, you have the calculation here of what the planning commission requested regarding the allowed density is accurate now in what you've provided tonight behind the 300-foot line?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I just want to be upfront though. I mean, the developer could look at, he can go up to 10 units. So when it finally comes down to site plan approval and stuff, you may see 58 units, you may see 60 or 59, whatever makes that, you may be within 1 or 2 units. But this is what is being proposed right now.
To me, that's an interesting comment that you say there, that it could change. So right now in this proposal, is the 300-foot encroachment has gone well into that. And then the 30-foot backyards to be shared. And I realize they're meeting the density now, but that's just purpose. And I know it's to make it pencil out better financially, but I'm concerned about that. The 154 feet, the shared backyard, to get more density in that area. It's feeling congested to me. So the idea that they could switch something then and go to more makes me more uncomfortable.
Understood, Van. One of the things I'm seeing with this is that they're actually perhaps going to a slightly larger unit and offering a product line that's maybe a little nicer than a bunch of small units and maximizing. If we, perhaps that's one way to look at the encroachment is allowing a little bit to be more spread out. Because if they could fit 10 per acre, all behind the 300, that would be a lot tighter looking than what we're seeing here.
Well, there's still open space requirements as well.
Correct.
Mike, were you going to make a comment, Vanchery?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that if the ordinance is going to pass and he's allowed up to 10 units per acre, I don't see it as a serious concern that he's going to add one, maybe two more to maximize his development. If he's going to meet all the other requirements, he's still got to have the open space requirements. He's still got to have the, the parking and everything else. Again, personally, I don't know that one or two more units, if that's what he plans to do. I don't know if he's planning on doing that or not. I mean, to me, it's not going to be a noticeable, the difference between 58 and 59 is not going to be crammed, I guess is what I'm suggesting.
And I would suggest that he already wants us to make two concessions on setbacks to get the density that he has. And then to say, hey, I can get some more if I want as well. Again, I'm staying with that, makes me uncomfortable.
I would agree with Van. I know that this is where the heartburn is of not having spent a little bit more time in understanding where the dimensions of a particular property then would cause the availability to be able to access all of the parameters of the ordinance or of the zone change. And so this is trying to wiggle it all in, and I just have to agree with Van at this point.
A point of clarification, Mike Florence, I'm curious on another applicant that we had across the street with a similar zone request with site plan. It seems like the 300-foot line was held pretty consistently with the Planning Commission and City Council. Is that correct?
Yes, I think there was the area to the south, they're trying to encroach a little bit. I don't know why with they submitted a new plan last week. I don't know, I can't think of it right in my head if they're encroaching at all. They might be slightly, I'd have to look at it again, but they were, at least on that one, I know their road at least is still encroaching.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
don't
remember
know
the
that
city council
penalize would be
feeling
the
pretty
right word,
adamant
but,
that
we've
units
already,
had to be.
I don't see how we made a concession. We took out that area that's within the 300 foot setback and allowed the density to be just based on what's behind the 300 foot line. Is that, I mean, I think we're getting them pretty.
My clarification was just to determine if the city is being consistent on two very similar applications requesting the same zone.
Not that one's better than the other, just are we consistent? Yeah.
And I know for me, when I was looking at this, knowing that this shape, that there would be a little bit of an encroachment behind the 300, I just did not anticipate this deep. I thought that we would stay a little bit closer to not having that many units into the 300 foot. I knew that there would be a little difference between each side of State Street, these two different projects, but yeah, I'm not fond of this layout personally.
Reading the notes there, Mr. Platt mentioned in the Planning Commission, if you look at the south end, there's a little bit of a swap
Yeah,
perhaps going on.
right,
I
a
think
little
we need to take
trade-off.
that into consideration.
Right,
As
exactly.
well. Obviously, that they've deemed that that's a necessary area for the viability of their commercial business. And
Right.
the north end has a very odd triangle shape, so yes, I think some encroachment is reasonable. And to Adam's point, yes, we were pretty clear with the other applicant not to use the encroachment to accommodate their traffic and roadway.
Right.
So consistency here is a question of mind as well, but I feel like we need to have a little bit more flexibility because of the shape of the
Yeah.
lot.
It was just more than I was anticipating by a bit.
Okay, council, or should we go ahead and open it up to the public, or you feel like you've made your comments? We okay with that?
Adam, do I present before it goes to public hearing as the applicant?
That's typically.
Yeah.
Okay, are
Now's
you-
the time to counsel with the council.
All right. Can I borrow your pointer? I'll sanitize if you want me to.
You know what? You can use,
You have one?
you can use that mouse. Let me.
Unless you purchase the new ones.
Don't work on this screen.
Oh, do they not?
Yeah, they don't show up, so.
I forgot to bring my green one.
Let me go grab some lights. Hang on.
Okay. And I probably need to speak in this so they can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And closer is better.
Closer is better with my mask on.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that everybody will remember for the last year that we've been talking about this. This plan is basically the same concept plan that we've presented many times over the last 12 months. So I'm a little surprised to hear comments that I'm surprised it's encroaching as much as it is, because this is basically where that road has been from the beginning. And one of the items that we really discussed in depth with the Planning Commission and City Council as the zone was created was this 300-foot line, if you'll remember. And we were told by both the Planning Commission and City Council, well, it's been written so that that there is the ability to encroach on that line, and please don't worry about that. Thank you, sorry. Because the main, oh, sorry, now I'm really messing up trying to clean it. What did I do? Do I click OK?
So, let's see. Okay, and then go back down to the green.
Say hi, Van, you're really large.
And then the one on the left, yes.
I'm curious about that comment that you were told not to worry about that line.
Like your hands don't like mine, I'm fine. So I was surprised because Mike Florence let me know a month ago when we were getting ready to go to Planning Commission that when the Norton property had come through, there was a serious discussion about not allowing any credit for density on the amount in front of the 300-foot. None of that was ever discussed as we had brought this plan to the city or the Planning Commission or City Council. And so I don't know, I haven't been here for the Norton's discussions, but I've been here obviously for every single one of ours, and we really haven't changed anything. So then we were told we need to do the calculation for the amount of property encroaching versus what's not encroaching, and we're basically balanced there.
Okay.
So you're getting the same amount of density that would be allowed, and we could redo this and put everything behind the 300-foot line, but we're hoping that the City Council, thank you, will have some sympathy and desire to not kill the existing nursery. And if we encroach here, where we're not going to, that really hurts the existing business. And I think one of the main differences.
See where you're pointing to?
Say that again? Here.
I'm wondering if the technological people can make it so I can see where you're pointing.
Oh,
You are on a Zoom.
It's on the light gray portion that says
half
existing
section
nursery.
Behind
It's
existing
south and west
nursery.
of the existing big building.
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
just
thank you.
not seeing that.
Does that make sense, Dan?
Yes, but
Okay.
still can't see where you're pointing.
So the reason we've always presented a plan like this that encroached on the north but stayed back on the south is because the Platts, who've been business owners for 25 plus years in Lindon, are trying to keep their business viable. I mean, that's the whole reason that they're interested in selling the back portion of the property. And so it's very different from the Norton property where you don't have an existing commercial enterprise on State Street that needs to be dealt with. And so that's the main reason that we've presented it like this. And this is the same road plan, basically, conceptually, that we've been presenting for the last year. Now, as Mike mentioned, we've met with UDOT, and the Platts would love the road coming in to be north of the Red Barn. So we're negotiating and trying to horse trade with UDOT, but they're UDOT, and I don't know how successful we'll be. This is probably pretty close to what we will end up with. We have no desire and would probably be opposed to anything connecting to this bulb like Van had brought up going south, because once we're in with 2 exits and inroads from State Street, I think that's the best way for this neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods. So we don't want a connection there. I've never been approached about one. It's not on the master road plan. If there's anything we could do to help stop that, we would be more than happy to.
And I agree with you. I don't want it either.
Yeah, no, I think we all concur there. This 30-foot between these 2 backyards that are the closest where that V kind of comes to a point at the north end there.
Right.
We're meeting a 30-foot setback between them, but not obviously 30 feet plus 30 feet or 60 feet. That's not gonna make it. And Mike said he measured it 29 or 30. My engineer's telling me it's 30. We would obviously make sure that it's at 30. That would be the case. Right now, I'm hoping, and this was a discussion we had at Planning Commission that Mike Venturi alluded to. The zone requires a concept plan to be submitted when we ask for this zone change. And we are considering a couple of other options. Does the road change with UDOT to benefit the Platts so that we go north of there? Do we alley load some of these? I actually was the one arguing that we shouldn't allow alley loaded product with this PUD. But with alley loaded, we might be able to get another unit or 2. I'll just be open with you. I've been open from the beginning. I think it's worse product. I think having a couple fewer units with private backyards is a better option than alley loading. But we are exploring a couple of options like that because it fits within how the zone was written. So I'm hoping we aren't hung up on this is the exact concept, because that road might change a little or a couple things might tweak, but we have to, as you've all said, meet all of the open space requirements. We have to meet the architectural guidelines. I mean, it's a pretty picture that he's drawn, but you know, where that garage sits and what the treatments are around it, obviously we have to go through all of that in detail when we come in for final site plan and subdivision approval. So conceptually, we know that the project is viable. And we had a discussion with Brian and Mike last week just to talk about what does that mean and how integral is the concept site plan to the zone change. We've been working on this for a year, and obviously there are some people here who haven't been involved from the beginning that I know are probably opposed to what we're asking for today. But this is not a secret. It's been what we've discussed from the beginning, and 10 units to the acre for this commercial property is what we've all deemed is reasonable. And so we're hoping and honestly expecting tonight that the zone will be applied. I think it's important to note that density is only allowed in the back. I was being asked by one of my neighbors, well, if it's 13 acres up front, does that mean you can have 130? No, I mean, all of the density is done behind that 300-foot line. Llama Lane that's over here is not counted in that because it's zoned residentially. and we don't want it anyways, but I think we've worked through the vast majority of the technical issues, if you will. And so I'm happy to answer any other questions that the council might have before you go to public hearing.
Yes, address the areas. Sorry, was somebody else talking?
No.
Where the existing barn is and the area going north of that, and I realize that the owners are close enough to the same. What happens to this piece of property if they decide to sell that barn? How does this become a usable commercial piece?
So I believe when Michael showed us various options of how deep properties were from State Street, and Mike, you can address this better, that still becomes a viable parcel if, I don't know if I can move these without destroying this, let me see.
Just click, no, just click on picture and just move it.
And drag it.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So right now, because of the way this little knuckle works, and again, I don't know what will happen with the road with UDOT, we believe that north parcel would be able to fit a little, I don't know that I should say strip mall, because it would only be a few bays, like the one that it backs up to. But you've got a property right behind it that is perpendicular to State Street. That would work, that you could have, you know, parking here between the Red Barn and that.
Where the jewelry store is? Is that?
It's 450 north? Is it a jewelry store? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
I think that's what it is.
That's the Saratoga.
Jewelries, and then there's a salon.
Right?
Mhm, yeah, so there's a salon there as well.
So we're trying to allow for the Platts to keep their existing business, keep that north portion viable as well, and for potential future development, and then fit the development on the back that makes the most sense given the constraints of the odd shape of the parcel.
Jeff, let me ask you a question. You hope, but you think not likely, that they would move that road to the north side of the barn. If that occurred, then what happens to that same piece?
Then it would have access from that road directly. Where part of the argument with UDOT is the road where it is right now, UDOT would probably require the entrance back here, I don't know if you can see the mouse, to come in off of this middle road. And that works, but it's less desirable than having a driveway that's closer to it, if you will. And then the Red Barn and the nursery share parking, and we'd rather not have a road that makes it hard for that shared parking, and you gotta cross a road to get from the parking lot to the Red Barn.
So are they still considering giving you access north of the barn, or is it just your wish list and?
No, we had a meeting with them a week and a half ago, with our engineer, and they said, okay, recreate and do a proposal and bring it back. We don't know that we can do it without having to relocate the Red Barn a little bit, and that then it will be up to the Platts, you know, what makes the most sense.
So is the consideration by UDOT that they would not possibly do this proposed to the north because of the road that's just a little further north from that to the jewelry store?
And the Platts are.
I mean, that's been part of the discussion.
Because they've had those driveway accesses forever.
There's been curb cuts there, have there? Yeah.
Forever. And 450 north, which is that other road,
Right.
came in violation of UDOT's rule for what the spacing should be.
Okay.
But now they're penalizing the Platts for that. And so we wouldn't be able to be right up here. Oh, all right, no, you're good.
Let me see if I can.
And so we know if the road goes south of the Red Barn, they won't allow another entrance. Well, they won't allow another street north, obviously, we don't need a street. The discussion is whether they would allow an entrance or not, but they might force that entrance to be off of the north side of that middle road.
Currently, are there 3 curb cuts there?
There are 5.
5, okay, I'm trying to think how many, you know,
Yeah, there's
pulling,
really-
well, because,
as you pull in and out, it's
well,
great.
yeah, because there's 2 between, there, is there not 2 between the, Jeff, is there 2 between the feed store and the Red Barn?
Yeah, I think there's one here, I think there's one roughly here, and then I think there's 2 right around
Okay,
the water, and then you've
Okay.
got another one down here that's roughly where
Sure.
this is. So you've got
Right.
5.
okay. So you'd be getting rid of the other ones in front of the feed
Right,
store?
so part of the negotiation with UDOT is, hey, we've got 5 accesses now, we're willing to consolidate them down, but. can you make
Help
it
us,
better? Right. And then
logistically.
maybe able to speak to that better as far as location of them, but there's 5.
If-
Jeff nailed it.
If one of them is a right turn only, does that get any traction for you, or is that a benefit?
Maybe, but Michael has told us that the rapid bus transit plan, I believe, is supposed to come right down State Street. So everything's gonna be right turn only when that happens. So, is that accurate, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, we're at least five years out, but, yeah, unless you're at a full movement intersection with a light, you're probably gonna lose left-hand access.
Right.
5 years is around the corner.
It may be longer than that, but
Okay.
that'd be the earliest.
So at this point, even if UDOT told us, hey, we'll do this, but you have to be right turn out, we'd be fine with that because we know that's what's coming down in the
Future.
future anyways.
Would UDOT make you redo the sidewalks and get rid of those other curb access points then
The
as
other
well?
curb cuts we would have to get rid of. That's part of the negotiation with UDOT.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yes.
Okay,
I do have a question.
go ahead, Randy.
On the main entrance that's on the south end, that goes currently through their yard, basically, for lack of a better term, where all of their gravel or the mulch and things and dirts, yeah. Will they maintain that, or they'll be changing, I mean, that seems like a very difficult yard to be driving through.
Yeah, no, they're gonna have to figure out how to
Business.
reposition everything, the business, depending on what happens with UDOT. This is roughly where that curb cut is, I wanna say. And then they've got that dirt road that you've all been on, I'm sure, that kind of comes around. So we're trying to hug it a little closer to the property line to give them as much existing nursery space as we can.
Okay.
Okay, council, we ready to go to the public?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, public comment. Anyone want to publicly comment on this? State your name and address and
Tina Rogers, 572 North, 650 East in Lindon. So I know that I'm coming late to the party, not knowing.
you're never late.
I think I was. I think I am a little late to this party. But I have a question. I have a couple of my children that live in Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain that actually live in developments very similar to this, if not exactly similar to this. And I'm wondering why we are considering these kind of developments in Lindon when we're kind of a small city. We've always prided ourselves in being single-family dwellings for the most part. I know we have high density. We've met the requirements for the state. So just a question, why are we considering high density, especially along State Street, where there's so many properties that would be available to do something like this? Why are we doing that in Lindon?
Someone want to respond to that? Mike, Florence,
Well,
or Randy?
I'll give my opinion for that. I'm not a high-density person at all. I was in favor of the one over by the freeway. This particular one, we've talked about it as a council, and I still have some trepidation about having it at 10, but it got approved at 10, so this is what this particular parcel gets to have. And he's trying to work within that. But it's because we have these deep lots that commercially are not viable, they're proving to be, at least at this point in time, and that we are using them to create an opportunity for spaced out, in my opinion, density. Unfortunately, these happen to be across the street from each other, but we're looking to make sure that we limit it as much as possible to those two areas and keeping it as tight as possible and yet spaced out as possible, because what we consider high density is not as dense as it is in other communities, and yet it's still a hard pill to swallow, and I recognize that. So for me, this is very site-specific. Don't want it to see it in other places, and that's just Randy's opinion on how I got here to this particular place.
So couldn't you make that all single-family homes back in there as well?
Yes, but that's not what the developer is wanting. And on top of that, my opinion is on single-family dwellings, it would not be a desirable place for people wanting to live off with no access to an actual community and neighborhood behind it. There's not the access for that, and that this particular spot is a place that would be able to house. I like the fact that Jeff is hopefully. We'll discuss a little bit further how he's going to stay married to this particular product. He knows the kind of products I was hoping for in this ordinance. But yeah, I understand what your concern is, and that single family definitely is the more desirable, but this particular lot doesn't seem like it would be a viable source economically to be able to house or to facilitate the single-family homes.
So who do you envision living in this?
Pardon?
Do you envision families living there, or?
Yes.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
They would be for sale, and for the most part, they would be young in our history, I guess, of experience. Young couples, single professionals, people starting out, and this would be their first home. That's generally who have purchased them.
And then there are people who like to downsize. There's a new demographic out there that's looking for something smaller. And again, I hope that Jeff will stay a little bit, this is my personal opinion, I'll state it later, but that this product with the backyards, the private backyards, that's a lovely product to live in. When I've remodeled or built a home, we've lived for a year at a time and very comfortably with products similar to what on this particular project lived with something like this. And it's in a lovely area of Orem, this particular product I have lived in the past for a year. And so I do see that there'll be residents that will add a lovely spirit to our community. So that's the hope. It's, every neighborhood has that one neighbor. You just think, oh, could they just, not drive their cars so early and loud or late at night, or mow their lawn better, or we all have those within the close proximity of every neighborhood. So we are hoping that this is going to drive a population that's wanting to be in Lindon for the reasons that we are Lindon.
You made an interesting comment
Sure.
about that it's not economically viable for single-family homes. Economically viable for the city?
Oh, no, this is for the developer. This is, the city doesn't own this land. I'm not able to determine how the city, how the owner of the property is developing it. We're just trying to craft a zone in such a way that is beneficial for the city and protects not only the residents around it, but the residents that will reside in that someday.
But it's not been economically viable for the plats.
For the actual owner.
The landowners, they have been zoned commercial and been paying commercial taxes for 25, 30 years, however long they've been there. And now they are in a position, and this is public knowledge because we've said it in these meetings, where the nursery business itself is not viable. They won't survive with all of that ground in State Street. And so they have to sell it. And this is not the city's fault or anybody else's, but they're in a position where they have to sell it for a certain amount. And to sell it for that certain amount, as you run the numbers to do the development, you couldn't put 10 homes back there because, as Randy mentioned, I don't think there's a great market for homes that access State Street behind the nursery, crunched in behind the other ones, and they're not part of a neighborhood. And so then you look at density, and at what point does it economically make sense so that the Platts would be able to sell and save their business, and then a developer can go in and build something that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting, because I see, 10-home little neighborhoods in American Fork and Pleasant Grove with almost the exact same kind of configuration. So that's just interesting to me that not being economically viable it's just interesting to me because I see that all the time with 10 homes in a patch almost exactly like this property.
It probably doesn't have the same land value originally at the time of purchase, and that's just my opinion, that the land value could have been significantly less than something that is currently commercial, which has a higher land value to it.
Perceived higher value.
Well, yes, but
The
the
land is
county
only
will
as-
say it's more and
it-
want
it-
more tax money for it.
You pay a lot more taxes on it, but it's only, the value is in the eye of the buyer and seller,
Correct.
whatever they decide that to be. Van, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I want one other thing clarified, and we talked about it some, and that's in the kind of the trade space, proposed trade space for the 300-foot encroachment. I'm going back now into the existing nursery area. If that's trade space, is that a space that's going to be protected? Because the property line, is along the road according to this site plan. So what happens to that place if the nursery's sold and people want to develop in there? It feels like you could lose that space that you traded so you could encroach up on the north side.
Like, doesn't it have to be a minimum of 1 acre for,
Or could it be excised or put back into?
Yeah, it does have to be a minimum of 1 acre for any project size. So, yeah, they wouldn't have much ground to be able to, so that's actually, yeah, it's less than 1 acre, so they wouldn't be able to develop that.
Well, I'm saying if somebody bought, the people that own the existing nursery, either current or in the future, they want to expand into there.
Oh, then they could do that. Like, that they're gonna have to subdivide this property. So they're gonna have to create a separate lot for the Lindon Nursery building. And so that will all be on one parcel.
Yeah, my point is though, then that, I don't know if you want to call it open space or whatever, is now gone. Or could be gone.
So Mike, maybe for clarification, in the yellow and the gray, it's commercial. If this were approved, the green area would be the residential essentially, and the yellow and gray would remain commercial. So Van, I don't know, it's currently used as part of the nursery business, that hatched
Right.
area. So I don't know that it's
Commercial is the trade.
correct.
You trade
So,
residential for commercial.
yeah, it would appear they're building on some commercial versus not other commercial, but Mike, I guess the question maybe that Van's asking is, can that hatched area in the yellow and gray ever be developed as additional residential?
No, I wasn't looking at
No?
residential,
Okay.
but just,
Theoretically, they could redevelop this as commercial and build commercial structures or commercial parking in that hatched area. Is that your question, Van?
no, it's
I
just.
don't know what your question is.
This part stays commercial in exchange that the part on the north becomes residential.
We're still with you, Van.
Yeah, I think I got my own answer.
Okay. Please, this is Mark Roger, he lives the same address as, yeah.
This is kind of, I guess, the sign of our times, that we end up with higher density places in ground that is maybe not ideal for single-family units, driven by, friends, we know that's our friends, circumstances, as well as by, what's happening around us. I know that there are needs for this, but I hope as a community that we're measured with how we do this. I know a number of people who live in higher density areas. They can't wait now to get out of them. So then they end up with this rotating group of people that sometimes bring in elements that may not be as good as we would like in our community. And I know there's always the need for those places. So these look to be very nice. I would trust Jeff in developing things, but at the same time.
They're not Jeff Acerson, so.
But philosophically, if we feel like there is the need to preserve the ambiance or whatever we have felt we've had here in Lindon, it continues to change. And it changes with whatever pressures come. And some of them are the right of people to develop their own personal land and the right of developers to purchase that and do the same. But city councils are designed to say, what do we do to preserve, for the people we represent, what they want in our community? And I hope that becomes the underlying motivation for whatever we do. That, sure, financially it gets driven by a lot of factors, as you mentioned, but at the same time, I think there is a need for us to try and preserve maybe locations, preserve what we have loved about Lindon in the 30 years we've lived here. And if it continues in increasing in density, then it's traffic, its impact on schools, roads, whatever services that you provide here in Lindon. And I hope that we do this very measured, that we don't end up saying, okay, it's gonna look like that edge of Pleasant Grove over there, or Saratoga Springs, or
Ouch.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But that takes a measured approach to those who have circumstances financially that say, I have the right to my property and to use it as we declare as in our country that we can. So, but as city, you also have that responsibility to preserve, I hope, that feeling and ambience in our community. So, this looks like a weird piece of property, so you stick houses in it, okay? You try and make it as comfortable as possible and let Jeff and everybody else make money. But I think it's important that we're measured with what we want Lindon to be. And I hope that you'll preserve that.
Thank you, Mark.
I think it's a great comment, and I think, unfortunately, you weren't here as they were developing the zone. Right now, there are 2 parcels in all of Lindon that it can apply to. And so the whole goal, I think, of the city council as they deliberated this was that we don't open Pandora's box for all this density and multifamily housing. It was specifically done for these deep commercial lots. And when you look at the one, I get turned around, but you know, where the Taekwondo studio and the Utah College Massage there, it's not great commercial ground, and you've had every restaurant fail that goes into the corner, and
We're getting a
so-
new one there.
I haven't been to it yet, but I
Well,
tried.
it hasn't
It's
opened
not
yet.
open yet.
Yeah.
But I think the city council was thoughtful as they tried to go through this, and we arm wrestled a lot over the last 12 months about, you know, me as the developer obviously pushing harder for the plats and what we wanted to do, and citizens who are neighbors here and neighbors across the street that we had a big arm wrestle. And again, I'm not happy with everything that ended up in the zone, but that probably means it's a good zone if nobody really got everything that they wanted the way that it was done. But Michael Florence has shown, and I don't know if those maps are part of this, the two properties literally that it affects in the city. And so
That always starts out that way, but then it ends up me too. You did it for them, so now do it for me. So, but once you set the precedent, there's a precedent set that gives them the legal right to then push that precedent.
Well, that's why we have the type of zone that we have.
Yeah. But
And that's why this
you
is
all
very,
know- You all know that occurs. You know, in a few years, it will happen with somebody else's property that says, okay, mine's a weird shape too, me too. But I hope that as a council, we'll be guarded with how we preserve what I think we want in Lindon. I hope we still do.
Well, Mayor, let me just share a perspective that where I'm headed. I agree that we definitely need to be careful about where we put, for lack of a better term, higher density housing. The concept I'm struggling with is these are areas that we have specifically, as a council, we have specifically identified to put something other than single family residences in there. We have crafted the zone, we have crafted the ordinance based on months and months and months of public feedback, public hearings, planning commission input, council input, and I'm just a little bit perplexed now why all of a sudden we're getting cold feet. I mean, he's met every one of the conditions, or will meet every one of the conditions. And again, I sort of agree that, you know, we're not opening a Pandora's box here, and we certainly can't divine what's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Again, I'm just a little bit trying to wrap my head around the fact why all of a sudden we're going back to the same questions and the same concerns that we've discussed. I don't know how many times. I don't want to, you know, exaggerate, but unless I'm missing something, I'm just sensing that some are having buyer's remorse or whatever. As I mentioned before, I personally believe the property owner has a right within reason. I think that based on public input, based on planning commission input, based on our discussions with the council, I don't know that there's much more that we can do other than say, forget it. Let's just, no, you can't do your development. You know, I'm not claiming to know everything about it, all this, but am I, you know, I don't know that I'm too off base. I'm just trying to understand why we're at this point and why now all of a sudden we're second guessing, third guessing, questioning. I mean, this is specifically why we set up this zone to address the needs. And I'm not saying there's only two places it can be done. I think we've identified some other places where it could be done, but practically, at least in the foreseeable future, I'm thinking that, you know, we've got a pretty good handle on how those areas should develop to meet the concerns of the citizens of Lindon, to meet the concerns of our planning commission, and in my mind, the concerns of the council. So that's just for what it's worth. That's my take on it.
So Mike, I don't think we have opposing views.
Thank
I think what we do is we have a spectrum of how do we balance Lindon as it always has been and Lindon as it will be going into the future. And I think what I'm hearing, and hopefully I'm not mistaken, that there's a level being raised of a higher sense awareness and sensitivity to what Lindon has been, and how do we navigate that going forward? And are we, as a council and as elected officials, how are we taking that into consideration as we move forward? So it's not a question we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's are we weighing all that together? And I think, I'm not going to speak for the whole council, but I think we are trying to do that due diligence. We're trying to make sure public comments brought forward, and that private landowners' rights are taken into consideration, and the current landowners that live in Lindon, that's also taken into consideration. And so anytime you have change or moving into the future, that discussion needs to happen, and it is a recurring discussion. It's not like it happens one time and we're done. I think every time we are doing development or moving forward with change or opportunity, that discussion needs to be at the forefront in every single discussion. It's not like one and done.
And I do not disagree with you one iota. I guess my thought is, yes, that discussion will need to continue to be had depending on where and what a proposed development is going in. Again, in my belief, my opinion is we've addressed those concerns over a lengthy period of time on this particular zone. I go back to the point we specifically set up this zone to allow exactly what's being proposed in the zone. We've got, I think the zone, it has been crafted in such a way that, or the ordinance has been crafted in such a way where it's taken into account the concerns of the citizens. I agree with you, Mayor. It warrants further discussion, but again, depending on where it goes, what they want to do, I'm just trying to understand.
Keep trying. Don't give up. It's okay.
Mike, are there other developments like this in Lindon?
Are there, you say?
Are there other developments like this in Lindon?
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Yes, there's one.
So this is quite revolutionary.
We have one out by the freeway in Anderson Farms. There's a townhome project there.
Well, again, forgive me. I know it's revolutionary, but again.
So then you'll have to be patient with us to maybe come later to the party. That's what you paid for.
Hold on, Mike. We've got some more public comment here. So,
My name is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
My name is Ben Platt. My family owns the nursery that's being, discussed here.
Can you have them come up to the
Yeah,
mic?
why don't
I
you
think
come up,
that would
Mike,
help
so we
those
can-
online.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
thank you.
We can pass that.
These
mic
masks
around.
kind of mask our voice, so it's.
I get it. We're all pandemic-y, but for doing it. My name is Ben Platt. My family owns this property. I apologize to the Rogers family that they're late to the party. We started it a year ago, and we should have invited you earlier.
But we tried to get in a few times when it was virtual.
It's been an awesome party. But it hasn't been. 100 years from now, when Lindon City hangs some sort of plaque in the history books that says this is what we stood for, this is what we represented, and this is who we are, I hope that 0.5 acres isn't the first thing that we read. And I'm not trying to undermine what good that has done for our community, nor am I trying to undermine the value that has brought to our community. But I hope that's not the first bullet point that stands out in the Lindon City history books. I hope the first bullet point is that we stood for families. I hope that the first bullet point is that we stood for freedom. I hope that the first point is that we stood for the principles outlined in the Constitution. Like, different, right? I understand this isn't what we thought Lindon was gonna be, but I don't think Lindon was ever intended to be fully defined by 0.5 acre lots. I think it was intended to be defined by a little bit of country for families, on behalf of families, in accordance with the principles of freedom and goodness that we have in the United States of America. So that's my thought, and maybe that's too big and too broad of a thought. But realistically, as you said, Mayor, we're going to have to face these questions over and over again for the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years, however long we're able to keep this all going. And it's a constant question of what does Lindon stand for now? What does it stand for today? Given today's current circumstances, given housing prices, given social dynamics, given all the things that are happening in the world today, what does Lindon stand for today? And I just hope that the per acre whatever is somewhere down the list, and up at the top, it's families and other things too. I do want to just reiterate that the work that has gone into this up to this point has been a massive amount of work by a lot of people, neighbors, community, the city staff, everyone. There's been so much work that's been put into this, and from my family's perspective, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the work you put into it, and thank you for what you're continuing to do to help facilitate this discussion of, is this property going to get a commercial overlay so that Jeff can move forward and keep tweaking with this site plan to see if he can find a site plan that my family feels comfortable with. We're still wrestling with questions, as Jeff indicated. The key question today is, are we going to apply the overlay or not? And once that question is answered, then Jeff can dig into it with further teeth and further investment to figure out, okay, what really are we doing here? What's the highest and best use of this property? And how do we keep the principles of Lindon at the very top?
Thank you.
I'd like
Mayor,
to- go ahead.
a thought on that. You know, at the same time recognizing the property owner's rights to develop their property, really, what else could this be? It certainly couldn't be single family, quarter acre, half acre estate homes for a variety of reasons. One is I don't think people would want to build back there. Maybe they would, I don't know. But from a practical standpoint, what else could this be? And I don't just, again, I agree fully. If this were going somewhere else and there were other options to consider, then by all means, let's consider them. Let's just, talk until we're talked out. But in this case, I'm trying to wrap my head around, unless a commercial developer came in which case the parking would be at least as bad, if not worse than it's going to be now. It's certainly not going to be as attractive if a commercial development comes in there. So again, not looking too far at another potential project. In my mind, what else could this be? This particular piece.
It could be anything until it becomes. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you had Mayor Dane here today, he'd say he would love a pro bass shop there, and he would go to the mat
For a
in
pro bass
facilitating
shop.
that. I mean, it's just.
That's what it
and
was.
So really, it's what the current landowner wants it to be or is comfortable with it to be. I mean, the same thing with Anderson Farm out there. That went through a lot of discussion, and anyway, I don't want
But I think
to. I don't want to
I
exclude
know
what
what-
it can be. It has to go through the process, which is what we're in right now, and that can go as long as it needs to be until the council decides we're done at this point, and then move forward and take the vote. So, Mike, I think you've made your point. Carolyn has a comment that she wants to make, and then I can come back to you after she makes that, okay?
That's fine. I'm done.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to express appreciation to everybody that's given input on this. It has been a year-long process. And, looking at these commercial, just these two parcels is really what kind of drove the impetus to look at this is to find a viable use for them, for the property owner, and also maybe meet a need for this type of housing within Lindon. There has been some feedback on that, although primarily I was speaking to what is it that we want in Lindon? What are those values that we want to embody? And I think what we're hoping this partnership brings about is the product that's going to come here is going to be a quality, something that looks beautiful, that fits in with the quality that we would like to see in Lindon. You can see examples of townhomes that aren't quality and townhomes that are, and bringing that type of community. Also, these are, we've expressed that these are not to be like a commercial rental complex. We're hoping to see that this becomes opportunity for private home ownership for those young people, for the retiring people. And that also breeds more people that are invested in the community. Maybe there's not as much turnover. So hoping to see that this has its own community HOA, it has those open spaces, has those play spaces where they're going to be neighbors and have that neighborly community nature, and limit maybe the rentals to what typical HOAs do, which is 10 or 20% of the total units. Maybe they can hopefully have that in their covenants. And so what is it that Lindon values are? To me, the values are, yes, open space. So we've created a minimum amount of open space that has to be here. Just anecdotally, last city council meeting, we're looking at more land to purchase for parks for the community. And I also look at the business that's here. Lindon Nursery is a heritage business that embodies our values. And I want to see Lindon Nursery continue to be healthy and strong and viable as a business to operate for. It's a generational business. I think that's a beautiful thing. And so working with all those elements, I feel like this is a PRD that, personally I would have liked probably to have it be more 8 units per acre as the overall ordinance versus 10. I'm not convinced, 10 makes things get a little squeezed. But if they're going to put in, quality townhomes, I think we can end up with something that we can be proud of and will allow some other demographics in our community that want to be here to come. So that's mainly my comment. I would not want to see more units squeezed in here just to maximize it just because it's on the books. I'd like to see, if that means some of these are a little larger and more gracious and are going to attract those home buyers that would want to be somewhere nice and quality that's going to have this beautiful path and park-like atmosphere versus, kind of crunched in. I think there's a market for that. And just final thing, I feel good about going ahead and wrapping this up and voting that we go ahead and allow this overlay. But I do want to make one comment about the road that currently is encroaching. Yes, I did see that on other concepts that came forward, but we were never specifically discussing site plans so much as some of the broader issues of the overlay. So just because they were presented but not really discussed in detail, I want to be clear that that's not an implied acceptance for me, that the road comes into the commercial area that much. So
and that's right. There'll be public hearings, but
right.
I go back to your point, Carolyn, about we need to make sure that it's a quality development. Well, we've incorporated within the body of the ordinance itself, or the overlay zone, what we perceive to be as a quality development for Lindon. If they follow the guidelines, then by definition, it will be a quality development.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a new nut to crack. And so we do want to proceed in a measured way. And we do want to have a good partnership with the property owners and the developer. And I think that they have definitely demonstrated good faith efforts in
That's
that.
a good point. I agree with you.
Okay, Van, I'll give you one more opportunity if you have anything else you want to say.
He's thinking.
Maybe not.
It's not on. I'm okay. I'm just thinking here a little bit.
Okay.
Certainly this, I'm always considerate of and sensitive to the landowners. that it's a great investment for them and what that can mean for them. The process in this has been mentioned, has been going forth for a long time. I've enjoyed the reach out to the neighbors most impacted, and that as their concerns have been voiced, how well they've been addressed. We've heard a couple of times here now to just, to follow the guidelines. But this project doesn't completely follow the guidelines with the setback and then the backyard encroachment. To me, that does not follow the guidelines that were set up. And I realize there's leeway that the council can take and build into it, but that doesn't mean that, to Carolyn's point, that leeway was given.
Or assumed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Randy, one last.
Thank you, Mayor. I too appreciate all the effort and time and energy that have gone into this crafting of this ordinance and this overlay. As a couple points of reference, I came back to run for city council for this particular purpose, to do what I can in this body to try to maintain as much of Lindon's values and Lindon's heritage. Just a funny little anecdote is that I purchased my first car in 1980 during the oil embargo. I just graduated from high school. That car was a 1973 Pontiac Grand Am with a 455 in it. Not a 454, but a 455. It was a hardtop. It was fast, low. It was a muscle car. It was awesome. Why would I buy that during an oil embargo? Well, the car was $1,500, and a stupid little 10-year-old Mazda was probably another $1,000 more than that. For me, I was able to take and budget my ability to use the car by how I throttled it. And so for this, I use that reference of mine that I choose here what I want, how fast I want to throttle on this ordinance, and how much I want how fast I want to go with this. And for me, the conversations that we have here are valuable to me. I appreciate the discussions that we have with you, the citizens, with the developers, with the landowners, with each other, and with staff. This means a lot to me in being able to craft this, and I appreciate the mayor allowing me this time to go easy on my throttle, on my 455 here. And so I'm grateful for the comments have made. I echo what Carolyn has to say, and Van, as far as that was not implied, even though it might have been discussed. So we can't hang our hat on that, but I will try to hang my hat on, and I know I don't get to have input here, but this is where I get to at least have a voice, and that is that I like not having the rear load. And in the last 26 and a half years that I've lived in Lindon, twice I've had to leave to another community, purchased a home, a townhome to live there. And then this last time we had to live in apartments over by Costco, the new Ivory ones there, and both great experiences. But I had to leave Lindon, and having to do that when I either built or did a major remodel. But we've always come back here. So I appreciate the product, Jeff. And so I would hope that we can not do a real low just to get another unit or two in. It would mean all the world to me personally, but that I'm not purchasing one, but who knows, I might in the future. I've done those kind of things in the past, my husband and I. And so the quality that we've talked about is very important. And so without belaboring all these other points that the other council members have talked about, I'm grateful for the time that we've had, and I'm ready to go forward at this point.
Okay, any more public comment before we close the public hearing? Okay, a motion to be in order to close the public hearing.
I'll motion to close the public hearing, Mayor.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Carolyn, a second by Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. Now, council, it's your opportunity to decide what you want to do.
Can you roll back up to the ordinance, or to the verbiage that would allow us to make the motion?
And Mayor Acerson, while Adam's moving that up, I just wanted to make one point of clarification. That this PRD zone, it does apply to the entire property, not just where the residential is, because they're required to have a commercial component, either existing or new. So that the new overlay zone would apply to the entire property. Just want to make sure the council was aware of that.
Okay.
All right. Mayor, with your blessing, I move to approve ordinance 2020-15-0 to amend the Lindon City zoning map to planned residential development overlay for the properties located at 535, 531, and 477 North State Street, along with the parcel numbers listed in the motion.
So we have a motion. Is there a second there?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? We have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to be a no because of the exceptions that they want.
Okay, so we have Mike, Carolyn, and Randy as a aye vote, and Van is a no, and one abstaining.
Is Jake not with us?
What's that?
Is Jake not with us? I thought I heard him.
He's recused himself.
He's here, but he's recused himself.
Oh, that's right. I remember now.
Okay.
Okay.
The motion carries. Thank you.
We're loading.
Okay, item number 9 is review and action on the Anderson Farms Plat G major subdivision approval.
Hey, that's all right.
And thank you for holding on there.
Pretty reasonable when it comes to that. I mean, if I'm not here.
All right.
Ken, can you hear us okay? Ken Watson, can you hear us okay?
I'm here.
All right, thanks for hanging in there. Okay. Go ahead, Mike, Florence, sorry, Mayor.
No, that's,
You okay?
yeah. Go ahead, Mike, Florence.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mayor. This item should go fairly quickly, but this is our 6th phase for the Anderson Farms development. This is for parcel G, which is also Plat G. This is 25 units. It's all detached, single family. The lot sizes range in size from 6,600 square feet to 13,800 square feet. You can see parcel G there on the screen. That area, Adam just went to the plat there. The average lot size on that plat is 8,990 square feet, which is 4.8 units per acre. The roads and lots all meet our subdivision requirements. This is very similar in layout is the concept plan that you approved as part of the development agreement. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the subdivision. I think that's all I have. The conditions 1 through 6 are outlined in your staff report for conditions of approval. So I can give the time to Ken if you'd like to add any additional detail.
Mike, any large changes from the original master plan agreement?
Sorry, I missed that.
No, there's no changes.
Okay.
The plat looks just a little bit different, but that's just because of the way we still have the cul-de-sac, the entrance here. These deep lots here go a little bit different. We moved the road down a little bit. So it's exactly pretty much the same. We put this cul-de-sac in by that lot 721, 720. So it's pretty much just the same.
Thanks, Ken. Good to see you virtually.
Hey, it's nice. I was gonna say, it's nice to be able to come and meet with you. At least I can see somebody once in a while, you know?
Hey, Mike Florence, I've got to tell you, when you put the subdivision requirements section, you have the required box, And then if it's compliant or not, kudos. I love that. That is such an easy thing to go down and look and get each thing that we're supposed to look at. Great format. Love that you do that. Thank you. Very helpful.
You bet.
Maybe I could go through the development just a little bit, and then if there's some questions that council has on the rest of the development, Anderson Boulevard and a few things, I'll answer the questions that you might have. This is our, like Mike said, this is our next development here. These will become our signature estate lots right in there, similar to the ones that's clear down on the south end of our property. We have another signature estate parcel down south of our gardens. So these are the bigger type lots, homes, 3-car garage. There are some 2-car garage in there. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is to have something a little bigger as the people come in off of 700 North into the development, they'll be able to see it. We have the parcel A, which is right across the street. That's what we call Plat E. That is the kind of the cottage type development that's there. That's the same thing as the gardens down here. And that the gardens is all sold out now. So they went real fast. Now we've got to provide more product for them. And so that's why the Plat E is in there. But we wanted to have this one here as a little more of the showpiece for coming in off of the development and be able to see it off of Anderson Boulevard. We front next to Mr. Thorne's property on the north side or south side of our development, the north side of his development. If you go back to the plat, we can discuss with the council so they understand a couple of things. We have met with Mr. Thorne, and it went over quite well. We have a little path between lots 713 and 714. That's part of our master development agreement. Then there's another path that goes down along the back or south side of lots 705 to 713. But we also have to get access for Mr. Thorne into his agricultural property there. So we provided on our plans an access into there and his ability to be able to turn his trailers into a couple of his openings that he has there. He doesn't have an easement, but he probably has a prescriptive easement that we recognize, but it's not been granted by a court, but we recognize that we need to take care of his needs that are there, and we're willing to do that. So that's part of our plans, is to put a gravel road there. It'll be gated up on 500 North, and then there'll be a wire fence that'll be along the north side of it. And then there's another 8-foot fence on the back of the lots. The path goes in between the two of them there. So we can separate his operation from our operation so that we're not infringing upon each other. And then down by lot 707 and next down just to the path that goes along there over to Anderson Boulevard. Let me see. I think that's pretty much everything there is. There's not too much to this development. All of our utilities come through this parcel C, comes through here and into the development that goes up along this street and then provides our utilities to our other phases of the Anderson Farms, and also turns north right there between 717 and 718. Utilities go up through there. So that's how we plan to be able to take care of all of our property. Still have an under drain system in this property here because we still find that there is water where we need to make sure we protect ourselves. We feel really good that we've protected ourselves to this point. We have not had any water in any basement in any of the developments so far. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of managing our water, our underground water. Okay, I think that's about it, other than maybe give you a little up to date on the rest of the development. If you want, it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll go over to the park first, the big 10-acre park. That's under construction. Okay, that's all under construction there. We've stripped all the ground. They're putting utilities in. And they're gonna continue to work as long as they can this winter time and then finish up next year so that we can get the park going sometime next year. I don't have a date on it yet. They've moved this into what we call special projects in Ivory. So I don't have as much to do with it other than know that that's kind of what's happening. I stick my nose in it to find out what's going on.
So you know we'll come to you if it's slow, okay?
What's that?
You know we'll come to you if it's slow.
Thanks.
Progressing.
Yeah. Well, I'm slow. It might be slow. So anyway, yeah, it needs to get going. And then, as you know, we've got Anderson Boulevard all the way up to 500 North. And now we've put in the new asphalt all the way up to 700 North. Minus a little bit on the end that we're going to be putting in the next day or so. We had to put in a crossing for an irrigation pipe for Ron Anderson, and we did that. Now we're going to be able to finish up the road up on the top there. That'll essentially open up traffic from 700 North down into our development. So we're supposed to be paving E1, which is a partial A, the south half of that, on Wednesday and Thursday. Excuse me. And so we'll finish the paving over here on this at the end of Anderson Boulevard. What else could I say?
So make sure those roads are good for 25 years. Nothing sinks or anything, okay?
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that.
Make sure those roads are good for at least 25 years. We don't want them to be sinking.
Believe me, they are going to be really good. Ask Zach Daly. He's pounding our contractors and stuff, making sure that it gets done. Yeah, it's we're meeting all the city specifications and everything. So we're proud of that portion. Let's see. Is there any other questions you might have?
Anyone? We good?
I like that you're doing little, easement places for people to be able to walk their dog or kids to ride the bikes, so the community is just really walkable, bikeable throughout and going to have a really beautiful park-like atmosphere. So thank you.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I said I just wanted to commend you that you're creating easements and places where the community can have access throughout the community and have pathways and places to walk and bike.
What ways to link?
Yes, to link everyone.
Right.
Yeah, we think that's something that we had with the master development agreement, and we're just following through on that. So I think we had that pretty well thought out when we were doing that. Felt real comfortable about it anyway. You see a lot of people walking on the streets now, especially down on Anderson Boulevard, down to the roundabout. If you notice, our signs are up down there, and we're getting ready to gotta landscape that roundabout, so that'll look really nice. There's another monument over in the entrance on 1700 West as you come in on the curve. That's a smaller one there, but at least it announces Sanderson Farms.
So Ken, you may not have this statistic, but I'm curious, the number of people that have just relocated to a different location in Lindon, that were Lindon residents, versus are all these new people coming from different communities. I don't know if you have that oversight.
Mayor, I don't have that information. I don't know if I'm pretty sure someone's keeping that, but I don't have that information tonight.
I would be very curious to find out maybe what that statistic is.
Okay, I'll see if I can find something and send it to you.
Mayor, to that point, when I was campaigning, I went through Parcel B very, very heavily, and I did not find one person that was relocated. Everyone was new and very excited to be in Lindon.
Well, it looks like the Planning Commission approved this, recommended it unanimously. Are we ready for a motion, Mayor?
I think we are.
All right, I'd like to motion.
Everyone's smiling.
that I move that we approve the Anderson Farms Plat G major subdivision as presented.
I'll
We have-
second.
Okay, we have a motion by Carolyn, a second by Randy. Any further discussion?
Yeah, as presented, that means with the conditions listed, correct?
Yes, there's like 6 of them, right?
Yes, that's correct, Van. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hanging in there, Ken.
No problem.
Okay, Van?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second by Carolyn. All in favor?
Aye.
We are
Aye.
officially adjourned. Thank you, council. Appreciate the discussion tonight and well thought out and very conscientious and I think valuable to how we serve our communities. So thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't mention it during the Anderson Farm stuff, but it applies to that. But any news on UDOT on lights on traffic signals at Anderson and 700, and then the one that's to the west?
So the Anderson and 700, it has not been approved for a signal. And so that it would have to just meet warrants. And so the one on 1700 West, that one is not going to be signalized. It's the one at 2000 West where the old Noah's and new Noah's is at. So 2000 West, it met warrants. Yeah, it met warrants and it's a matter of funding and it's on the list, but it's quite a ways down. And so we have that one met warrants, and then out at 2800 West, other side of the freeway, and 600 North, that one met warrants for a signal, and then also Geneva Road and 500 North. It's the one that kind of goes into UIS, the steel place, that one as well. So we have 3 signal locations that we're just waiting for UDOT.
Well, stay safe. Hang in there.
Off the record, any progress?
Hang on really quick. We are still live on YouTube. Hang on. So.